Chapter 90. Looking at Illya and the other Einzbern girls, I shrugged, as for better or worse they were tied to me for now, and I would treat them fairly as all who loyally served my interests within my realm were treated. I see. I believe I understand how you got here and how your bodies, as you said, were reformed after being merged together. But in the end, now it doesn't matter. You four are magically bound to me, and thus your needs will be taken care of. I stated as a statement of fact before I focused back on the auction for a couple of minutes as people offered bids that in the end didn't match my own, and I was finally brought the space bracelet that I gleefully slipped onto my wrist. Sir, why did you spend so many magical gems for a space-expanded object? Such a number of high-grade gems in the hands of the Tosaka family would be worth far more than that, right? Illya asked me inquisitively, and my face twitched at her reminder, but I shook my head as she was missing a great deal of information. Enchantments that capture, enlarge an amount of space and then use it to make a spatial storage device are extremely rare, extremely energy-intensive, and thus are extremely expensive. As Illya went to speak, I raised a finger to silence her. Illya, you are not on the same Earth that you were on previously at all. Hell, Gaia won't even deny your magecraft, to say nothing of how we are in the equivalent of the reverse side of the world, with how we are in the planes of fairy. I said before I smiled, speaking again. This is a permanent order for you four. Do not harm me, my wives, and any children we may have. Now go ahead and try some magecraft. I ordered Illya, who bit her lips at my abrupt ordering of her and the seals on her body flaring as they etched the order into themselves into all four of the homunculi. Illya, following my orders, pulled out a strand of her hair that then glowed silver and began to fold itself like origami in the air, finally taking the frame of a bird that she let fly into the air with Illya gawking at it. I only have to put the bare minimum of mana into it so it can maintain its flight. She looked at me awestruck as she muttered. I don't feel the rejection of Gaia at all. Does that mean all magecraft and magic isn't rejected, thus allowing for you inhuman beings to exist freely? She pondered, and I flicked her across the head, making her yelp from across the room. Don't be rude. I literally own you. Now your current situation may look complicated, to say the least, but I will simplify your future for now. I looked at all four Einzberns and continued to speak as the auctioneer brought out the next items, but they weren't of any real interest to me. I honestly don't have any plans to return you guys to your Earth. Gaia and Illya probably would see me as some kind of intruder, though that could be wrong, as I was once human before ascending into this form I have now. Anyway, you four will be serving within my castle as maids, caretakers, and whatnot. If you have any grievances or concerns for such service, I am sure we can come to some kind of agreement. I finished while taking a drink after my little speech. Master, may I speak and move freely? Azazyel asked quietly, and I nodded with a shrug as I responded. Go on ahead, so long as you aren't on the path to harming my loved ones. I could care less what you do after your duties are complete, and that's how I treat all the beings that have come to live within my realm. Azazyel crossed the couple meters that separated us, and as she stood directly in front of me she kneeled down and held my legs with her chin just above my knee as she began hyperventilating, and I froze at the completely unexpected sight before she began speaking through her panting breaths. Please, my lord, our master. Please never take us back. We have a full long life ahead of us, and the Einzberns will tear us apart down to our very atoms to try and figure out what Hera did to preserve our forms to what they are now. She begged with tears streaming down her face. You say you know of our particular Earth. But the horrific experiments the Magi of our world would put us through to figure out how we survived traveling through worlds, and Hera's binding seals that fixed our bodies. That will also bind us to you are uncountable and all just as terrible. Azazyel squeezed my leg as she truly begged me, with her voice running hoarse. Please, my lord, never take us back. We will serve you faithfully, as Einzberns are made to obey those that hold our leash. She said desperately. I reached a hand outwards, and she froze as my hand rested upon her head, and I began to gently stroke through her soft white, almost cream-toned hair as I spoke softly. I will not take you back to your world, as I just said your world is a shit-hole, frankly. I giggled at the end as I calmed Azazyel down. Lait, Sella. Do you have any such issues that need hugs? I joked, and they mutely shook their heads. Can we get snacks and breaks after work? Lait asked, suddenly breaking the silence after my question, and I gawked at her question before snorting. Yes, Lait. You can have breaks and all the snacks you want so long as you don't hurt yourself and you get your work done. I replied, rolling my eyes as I realized I had still been petting Azazel's head with her having pushed her head into my lap and between my legs, as I was so focused on Lait's silly question. "What is the extent of the service you wish of us, sir?" Sela asked respectfully, and I focused on the most hardworking and normal of the Einzbern homunculi as I answered. "I am not sure as to the extent of your service, but basically anything a maid or Einzbern servant would typically do, I guess." I finished shrugging as I paid more attention to the auction, seeing the succubus now selling off more people. This time some very large burly minotaurs that she was hyping up to be able to pull a sled filled with heavy metal ingots without rest were cursed to live on the ambient magic of a place they latched onto, so they would make perfect guards for a treasury or something. "I see. So we are to be your handmaidens as we were to Madame Illya. Washing your body, and as a man, we would relieve you of your lusts?" she questioned, making Azazyel, who still her head in my lap, freeze as my hand had paused before continuing its ministrations in luring the catatonic homunculus in my lap to sleep. I realized that her little insane outburst wasn't just about her being terrified about her or her daughter being tortured with experiments. But I could see her own very torn and mangled soul that was just held together by Hera's seals upon her. And thus, I knew that Azazyel above all else was mind-breakingly terrified of returning back to their world, being put into the Grail, and thus being back within the grasp of angry Amenu, who obviously messed with her a great bit when she was within the Grail. "I shall not force sexual duties upon you," I said firmly, making Illya exhale in relief, though she blushed as I continued and sent a grin at her in particular. "Though if you desire to perform them for my favor, then you are more than welcome to do so," I said, shrugging, as Galatea seemingly wouldn't mind so long as I was dominating them and putting them under me. And Raven simply didn't have the physique to fully satisfy me before she lost all her stamina and ended up a mess, and thus would grumble about me wasting her reading or magic practice time and to go bother Galatea or Astrid. My plans to tease Illya into a blushing pile of embarrassment were cut short as Avari the succubus spoke up again as a large box was wheeled out with the maids next to the succubus removing the drape covering it to unveil the contents within. "Oh, my gods," Illya muttered as I frowned, taking in the sight beneath me. "Lo and behold. Ladies and gentlemen. This wonderful beast is the reincarnation of the Nemean lion, found deep within a very dangerous plane, and the captors paid for the capture of these beasts with all but one of their lives. Now who desires an invincible beast who not even a lesser god can harm?" She roared as the massive Nemean lion bound in magical chains squirmed and stared wrathfully at the succubus, and I snorted as the succubus went to pat the lion on the head. With a violent lunge, the Nemean lion that was larger than an elephant tried to bite the succubus in half, but she merely turned into mist reforming outside of the lion's mouth, chuckling. "As you all can see, this beast will make a great guardian or centerpiece for your forces if you can tame it." I just rolled my eyes as I had no damned plans on buying a murder blender.